A lot of people hate updates to software. They claim that they break things and make everything run slower. In fact, the only way I was able to get my wife to update her iOS is when I told her she'll be able to erase objects in the background. So today I want to talk about updates in general. Are they good, bad? And hopefully I'll try to convince you that you should be updating all the time. So let's talk about that today. So the obvious argument for updates is you get new features and all that. You already know that, blah, blah, blah. No one's interested in that. The important thing I want to talk about is bugs. Every software has bugs, and updates, well, try to fix them. So if you look at release notes of any application, you'll be surprised how many things are being fixed from one version to the next. And in fact, once you read it, you'll be like, whoa, I've been using a version of a software that had all these problems. This is crazy. And this is especially important in lit support because bugs could affect results of a case. Sometimes there are issues with text extraction, there are issues with searching, and if you're not installing most recent updates, well, you're not, in a way, you become liable if something doesn't go according to plan. Let's say a search term doesn't hit or something doesn't work as client would expect, but because you were running an older version, not a current version, and it had that bug and you failed to install the update, you could be blamed for, well, doing a bad job on the case, which is not something you would happen if you had the most recent version. If you're on the current version and had the bug, you could always sort of shift the liability on the software maker and say, hey, well, that's what it was, you know, so they had a bug and that's it. But if you didn't install the most recent version, well, then it's kind of on you. Next, let's talk about security. You probably say same thing like with the updates with the features, you know, no one cares about security, this more secure, that more secure, blah, blah, blah. You're right. But let's talk about something that you personally could benefit from, and that is security updates to your phones. So one thing we do in eDiscovery is we acquire data from phones, and usually people willfully give you their PIN code, account numbers, all that stuff, and you're able to get the data. But in situations like maybe a government, FBI, somebody, when they take somebody's phone and they need to crack it to get data off of that, well, in that case, security really matters. If you're an older version of phone OS, there are probably vulnerabilities that are known, or there are different workarounds that are known, how to get data off the phone without you explicitly authorizing it. And different government organizations figured out ways of doing it. However, when you have the newest version, the most current update, all these little issues and workarounds have been patched. So it's going to take a while before someone can figure out another workaround to get into the operating system of a current phone. So that makes it very much more difficult for people who are trying to get into your phone and get your data when you don't want them to. And lastly, let's talk about performance. Now I know perception is anytime you install a new iOS update, things become slower because software is more bloated and there is lots more stuff. And in some cases it is true. But in a lot of other cases, it's actually better. So I want to tell you a little bit about how Microsoft is making updates to its core framework, to its runtime that it uses to run all the applications, to make applications faster. There is this thing on Windows called .NET, and that's what is used to run all the applications. And the way programs work on a computer is a little different from how most people think. So try to explain, I'm going to like simplify it, which makes it not exactly true, but close enough. So let's say a programmer writes a code in like C# or VB or something like that. They write the code in Visual Studio and then they say, run the code. Well, Visual Studio goes, hold on a second, let me do something with your code. And it changes it to what's called a common language runtime, like a common code. So whether you write on C# or VB, it all gets converted to all the same code. And then once we have that code, you tell compiler, okay, let's make executable out of it. And it goes, wait a minute, not so fast. And it goes through that code and it kind of optimizes different things and makes sure things are packaged up really nicely. So it's not the same code that you wrote in level 1 that gets compiled into an executable. But now that we have executable and you say, okay, let's run the application, but then the CPU goes, hold on a second, not so fast. And that starts looking at your code and it starts messing with it and changing how things, like rearranging things for efficiency. this is what's called microcode, and this is what in Intel's 13th, 14th generation CPUs was messed up. There were bugs in the microcode, and the CPU was destroying itself. So, point is, we went from the original code that the user created, we went to the common language runtime. During that process, we did some optimization, moved things around, and then we did it again when we compiled, and we did it again before running it. So we're going through these multiple stages of the process, and the code we write isn't the one that actually runs. Right, so what is my point of all of this? Well, anytime your code goes through different transformation, there's certain logic that's applied to it to transform it, to optimize, and to speed it up. And Microsoft has been putting a lot of effort into optimizing the code. Basically, they take your code that you say, I want to run this, and they go, no, you don't really want to run that. And they like rewrite it for you without you knowing it. And so that it's more optimized, more efficient, like lists are not used as, like when you have lists of objects and you want to find an object on the list, normally it would just go in the loop and look for the object. But what Microsoft's doing, they say, no. On the back end, what we're going to do is we're going to do a directory memory map of the location of that list in memory, and we're going to have direct access to it, and we're going to do it much faster, so you get results even faster, even though you haven't changed a single line of code. So Microsoft is going on the back end and rewriting programmer's code so it runs faster. And that's one of the big things that is in .NET 9.0. So if you ever have an opportunity to upgrade to .NET 9, that's going to give you a lot of performance optimization. Oh, at least it's supposed to. While upgrades do break things on occasion, and sometimes they upload it with extra software which slows things down, overall I think it's worth upgrading, considering all the bugs and security issues that are being patched from version to version. It is something that everyone should do. Let me know your experience about updates in the comment section below. Don't forget to follow on LinkedIn, subscribe on YouTube, and I will see you on another video.